Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak and UN envoy discuss the latest peace efforts in Yemen. The United Nations says that hunger has surged to record in Hajjah and Al-Jawf government rates. Infighting intensifies among Houthi factions in the electricity sector. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Roshan Fuad. Foreign Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak discussed with the Special Envoy of the United Nations to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, latest developments in the country. Bin Mubarak renewed the government's position in supporting peace efforts, adding that the government is doing everything possible to alleviate the suffering of the Yemeni people and achieve their aspirations for a comprehensive and just peace. Bin Mubarak warned of the consequences of the Houthi militia's economic war on the deteriorating humanitarian situation and the need to take a firm international stance on these practices. Houthis confirmed the death of a second Houthi Air Force commander in a week's time. Informed sources revealed that the Houthi commander had been killed in Ma'rib. Earlier, the rebel militia announced the death of Ahmed Al-Hamzi, the Air Force commander. The following report has more details.
A second Houthi Air Force commander is believed to have died from injuries caused by a series of massive explosions at a militia-controlled base in the central province of Ma'rib last week. The Houthis said on Monday that Major General Mohammed Hussein Saleh Al-Hamasi, a former commander of Air Defense Brigade, had died but didn't specify how or where. Al-Hamasi is the second military leader from the same division to die in less than a week. On Sunday, it was announced that Ahmed Ali Al-Hamzi, commander of the militia's Air Force and Air Defense Force, had died after suffering from illness. Later, the Houthi-controlled Sabah news agency reported that he died due to complications from a previous injury. Yemeni government officials and military analysts say that the two leaders were severely injured in a series of explosions that tore through a militia-controlled base during weapons testing in Ma'rib Sarwah district last week. Other senior Houthi commanders are also believed to have been badly injured. Yemeni government said the Houthis were testing new weaponry at Sarwah side, and that military specialists from Iran and Lebanon's Hezbollah militia were also killed.
Yemeni Association for Prisoners of War condemned the violations committed by the Houthi militia against 49 civilian abductees. The commission expressed deep concern about the excessive torture of prisoners by the group to extract confessions. The association called on the international community and human rights organizations to stand with the victims and condemn these Houthi violations. Food and agriculture organizations said the governorates of Hajjah and Al-Jawf are most affected by food insecurity, widespread hunger, malnutrition, and insufficient food consumption. This report has more details.
The Food and Agriculture Organization FAO has reported that two Yemeni governorates, Hajjah and Al-Jawf, are the most affected by food insecurity, widespread hunger, malnutrition, and insufficient food consumption. The survey found that 38% of surveyed families suffer from food insecurity, which is equivalent to the crisis stage and above the third stage of food insecurity. About 34% of households suffer from moderate or severe hunger, 44% report moderate or poor dietary diversity, and nearly 40% consume insufficient, poor, or limited food. Food security deteriorated slightly in the middle of this year compared to May, with the reasons largely attributed to the beginning of the agriculture dry season. The report also found that 75% of those surveyed reported that families resorted to severe livelihood coping strategies which harmed their future productivity and ability to manage shocks. The percentage of households that often resort to food-based coping strategies strategies deteriorated marginally by the percentage point last June compared to late May. The United Nations survey showed that food insecurity was higher in rural and semi-urban areas than in urban areas, and it was also higher among households that do not have sources of income or receive basic income from daily wages in the agriculture and non-agriculture sectors. The survey included about 2,524 families from 22 governorates, with an average of no less than 110 families in each governorate. The FAO's report on commodity prices did not benefit consumers in Yemen much due to the devaluation of the currency, leading to an increase in the prices of imported food. The collapse of the Black Sea grain deal could exacerbate the situation by increasing bread prices, rising food inflation in the short term, reducing access to food, and further triggering a food crisis that is already one of the worst globally. During the questionnaire period, the cost of minimum food basket remained stable, and the average monthly household cost was estimated at $87. The prices of basic foodstuffs remained generally unchanged in most regions, and workers' wages rate higher than the year before.
The International Organization for Migration announced the displacement of 28 Yemeni families during the past week. The organization said in its weekly report that it had documented the displacement of 28 Yemeni families from July 30 to August 5th. Massam, the mining project, announced removal of 1,013 mines during the first week of August. The project stated that the number of mines removed since the launch of the project is more than 400,000. One child was killed and 2 other people injured in a mine explosion in Hodeidah Governorate. In less than 2 weeks, 10 civilians, most of them children, were killed and injured when Houthi lead mines exploded in Hodeidah Governorate, which is one of the most affected Yemeni governorates. Informed sources in Sana'a said that the infighting among the Houthi leaders in the electricity sector has intensified. This led to several campaigns that revealed the corruption. The following report has more details.
New documents revealed the intensification of the struggle between the leaders of the Houthi militia to control the electricity sector in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, in parallel with competitive activities over the collection of levies and revenues, corruption practices, monopolization of resources, and dominance over production. In this context, a Houthi leader who was appointed Minister of Electricity in the unrecognized coup government accused the other leader, who was appointed as Director General of the General Electricity Corporation, by violating laws and regulations and exceeding his powers by appointing his followers to occupy several positions in the joints of the institution. According to a document, despite warning the former not to exceed his powers and hold him responsible for that, he issued a decision 1 day after the warning to appoint one of his followers as the General Director of Administrative Affairs in the institution, and to circulate the decision, which is considered an official day. 2 months ago, senior coup leaders intervened to stop a media campaign exposing the practices and corruption of the Houthis, in addition to their interference that caused several angry reactions. The campaign referred to the resignation of a Houthi leader who was appointed as an advisor to al-Mahwid governorate. According to the campaign, a Houthi who was appointed Minister of the Interior of the coup issued an arrest campaign on charges of assaulting another Houthi leader who runs a security device to guard facilities and protect people in Taiz governorate in the center of the country, with the aim of taking control of the building. The campaign revealed many violations committed by the Houthis and recalled other assaults they committed against other public officials in several institutions.
Coming next. China announces additional aid to Yemen to support the health sector.
اسمي سنة وأنا رسامة من صنعاء. لما بدأت الحرب كان عمري 2 سنين. كنت أخاف أوقات بس الرسم يسعدني. حلمي أن أكون رسامة عالمية. أمنيتي صعود سلم النجاح وأحقق كل أحلامي. أنا سالم من حضرموت وأنا أحب التصوير. لما بدأت الحرب كان عمري 6 سنوات. أحب تصوير كل جميل في بلدي.
Welcome back. In Taiz, many government employees staged a protest in front of the Square of Rights and Freedoms, rejecting the starvation policy and the continued collapse of the national currency against other currencies. Protesters demanded the government to pay suspended salaries and to find a supervisory role for the local authority in stopping bank manipulation of the currency, which created economic repercussions borne by common people.
We call upon the authorities to save the Yemeni riyals from collapsing and to pay our salaries by the Saudi riyals or US dollar, just like the officials in the government who receive the salaries in foreign currencies. We protest today against the grave-like silence of government in front of the collapsing riyal. The government did nothing to alleviate the suffering and deteriorating living conditions of the people in Taiz. We are living in a real famine that spread in all the city. Children are suffering from lack of food and the city is under siege for 9 years. Moreover, the international agencies have stopped their aid distribution activities for the needy people. Hunger is the dominant word in Taiz and the government means nothing but corruption.
The Houthi militia seized medical equipment of cancer patients in Ib governorate. Local sources said the militia held the equipment for 2 days before transporting it to warehouses. The Houthis refused to release the equipment despite meant for cancer patients. China announced providing new aid to Yemen. The new aid aims to support the health sector, which has undergone major damage due to the conflict. This report has more details.
China intended to provide a package of assistance to the health sector to contribute to facing the challenges facing the health system in Yemen and to alleviate the suffering of thousands of citizens due to the deterioration of conditions due to the 8-year war. According to a Chinese official, a batch of Chinese medical aid is expected to arrive in Yemen soon. This is within the framework of China's efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Yemeni people and its continued aid to Yemen for decades. The chargé d'affaires of the Chinese embassy in Yemen said that China pays great attention to supporting the Yemeni government in various fields, including the health sector, pointing to the arrival of a package of Chinese aid to the Yemeni health sector soon. The chargé d'affaires touched on Chinese aid to Yemen during the past decades, indicating that His country helped in building hospitals and clinics and sent about 3,500 doctors to Yemen, who provided support, benefiting about 10 million Yemenis, and more than 600,000 surgeries were performed. He expressed his hope that the soon-to-be-arrived aid will contribute to strengthening the Yemeni health system, in addition to providing support in the field of training and rehabilitation, hoping that the medical teams will return with the advent of peace. In a video conference, he discussed with the Yemeni Minister of Health the challenges facing the health system, aspects of cooperation, ways to strengthen it between the two countries, and the health support provided to Yemen, whether medical aid or in the field of training and rehabilitating health personnel in Yemen. He also touched on the challenges facing the health sector in Yemen as a result of the coup and war, and the ministry's efforts to overcome them, explaining the continuation of humanitarian medical aid to Yemen, and at the same time wishing the health staff to return to work to improve medical services.
Even before a major escalation in conflict 9 years ago, Yemen was one of the world's most severely water-stressed countries. Recurrent droughts and climate change led to water scarcity that has only worsened in recent years. This has compounded the struggle of farmers across the country. The Wang Report has more details.
Yemeni farmers complained of incurring heavy losses in light of the low level of their production of agricultural crops due to the effects of the climate change. Farmers said several seasons pass by and they are waiting for rains to cultivate their land, which affects plant growth and the spoilage of the agricultural crops. They also pointed out that the consequences of these effects are not limited to the drought, but also to the spread of pests and insects that cause a significant loss in the agricultural production. Yemeni scientists assert that the country faces the two biggest challenges, which are the conflict that has been going on for about 9 years and the climate change, which has led to the suffering of nearly 8 million people from severe food security, accompanied by a complete absence of the authorities to reduce the risks of this phenomenon. They pointed out that the latest studies have showed that the Middle East region in which Yemen is located is one of the regions which are most vulnerable to the harmful effects of the climate change in the world, and the agricultural sector will be affected by excessive heat and water scarcity. They added that if the Earth's temperature rises by 4 degrees Celsius in the region during the summer, it will lead to a decrease in water flow by 75%, and the aridity of the Yemeni lands could increase by 50% to 60% in some areas.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Foreign Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak and UN envoy discussed the latest peace efforts in Yemen. The United Nations says that hunger has surged to record in Hajjah and in Jawf governing rights. Infighting intensifies among Houthi factions in the electricity sector. This is the end of the news. It was Roshan Fouad. Thank you for watching.